They're back. Guys,
Here we
mix it up on
are.
you. I like how it looks a little bit more. We have our special guest tonight, the one and only Buddy
Special
Jenkins.
guest. Hello,
And
everyone.
I brought a nice Diet Coke because I expect the combo to be awesome. Something to take the edge off, guys.
Polar seltzer this way.
Oh, man, that's good. No, Adam, absolutely not true. That's crazy work.
Wait, let me see.
Bro, you want a sip of my Diet Coke is crazy.
I do.
Oh my gosh. Look what I do for love. This is insane. Insane. All right, guys, make sure if you're on, you're saying hi. Share it real quick. Shahi came out of nowhere finally. What's up, guys? Hey, look, hit share, tag somebody. We're going to take 2 days and inspect Islam. I think it's important. It's a growing religion, and the goal is not to pick on anybody, but also, John chapter 14, verse 6 is clear that Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. So here's the reality is, as Christians, if we believe Jesus is the only way to heaven, then we should expose false ideas that will tell people there's another way to heaven. So the goal isn't to be mean. The goal is just to show you where it misses, because it misses, and it misses hard. And I'm happy that people are finally pulling the covers back and looking at this and showing what it's really about, and that it's not what it says it is. And so we're gonna take 2 days on this. Sorry if that's not what you love, but it's important to know because it's a growing religion.
Mm-hmm.
So
a disgusting one.
Yes.
It
So
is.
let's do it like this. I grabbed a hold of Galatians chapter 1, and I thought this was interesting. Paul said this. He said, I marvel, Galatians 1:6, and a little bit more. I marvel that you're turning away so soon from him who called you in the grace of Christ to a different gospel. Look, there are different gospels, which is not another, but there are some who trouble you and want to pervert the gospel of Jesus Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel to you than what we have preached to you, let him be accursed. So here's the reality. It's like, bro, another gospel will put a curse on you, as it should, because it's against Jesus and the sacrifice he made. So Buddy's done a bunch of research on this, and we wanted to pull him on, have the conversation, and really we're going to let him champion a ton of the convo, but I think it's good, and drop some questions. We'll do our best. Look, we are trying to do our best at being Christians and know the Bible.
Yeah.
So definitely some things we're not going to know about Islam, but we've done some research, been doing some research, and want to tell you what we do know, and will be good. Yeah, and look, there are plenty of false other gospels, right? So there's Mormonism, there's Jehovah's Witness, there's you can run through a massive list. But the same thing is said about all of them. And as good as people they might be, you guys have probably seen this, but I know some Muslims are better Christians than Christians. Okay, look, that is just a silly statement. But also, just because some people don't live how they should doesn't mean something's more right, which is kind of a silly argument. So, all right, we're going to throw it to Buddy. Give us an overview real quick. What does Islam actually teach?
Yeah, so when it comes to Islam, and essentially just to start a basis, and even for today's portion, right before we get into, I know day 2 we're going to kind of cover some of the objections that Islam has against Christians and how Christians can properly defend those things biblically.
Which we're called
we first want to
properly defend.
Yeah, and we're called to be able to properly, as you guys went through First Peter, right? We are called to apologetics. We are called to be able to defend the faith, with the hope that is in us, and be able to defend it properly, biblically, logically. But today we want to be able to cover what is Islam, what do they teach, and kind of critique it in a way where we kind of will come to a conclusion on is it a compatible worldview. Even first off, right? Obviously, we know they refer to their God as Allah. Allah just means God in Arabic, And sometimes they'll try to play games where they're like, well,
Yeah,
Allah
they will.
God, but if you told them, okay, well, then Allah is Jesus, and they're like, well, no, that's not the same thing. So, their God is Allah, and they teach this concept of Tawheed, which is the absolute oneness of Allah. So they wholeheartedly reject the Trinity, and then they're really big on Allah has no sons, He does not beget, and He does not possess any offspring.
Yep.
So just off their teaching of alone of who their God is, they already reject two fundamental proponents of Christianity, which is God is triune and the Father has a son in Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Yes.
you get into their concept of the Quran, which is their, for
Their
quote
holy
their
scriptures.
holy book, their scriptures that they hold to. Allah has revealed through the prophets many versions of His word, and this is where within the Quran it says that
Careful.
He's revealed the Torah, He revealed the Psalms, and He revealed the Gospels, or what they call the Injil. And the Quran ultimately is the final revelation of that. And so they'll say, they'll say they
Yeah.
believe, Moses was a prophet. They'll say Adam was a prophet, Abraham was a prophet, and he revealed these different sets of scriptures through these prophets. And then the Quran was the final revelation that he revealed through Muhammad.
Which gets sticky when we start to actually inspect it.
Yeah, it gets really sticky because one, they referred to these revelations as the speech of Allah. So just as we say, like the Bible is the word of God, they say this is the speech of Allah. So when it comes into it, when we understand, obviously the speech of Allah can't be corrupted, it can't be changed, it can't be whatever.
Yeah.
And
And
so
then
when you start to go ahead,
that it was like word for word too, right?
mm-hmm.
They believe that it was translated, not
Yeah.
inspired,
So
translated
yeah,
word
yes,
for
yeah.
word.
Yeah, so how we obviously look at the Bible is we believe that obviously through the God used men to write the scriptures under the inspiration
Yeah,
of the Holy Spirit. To them, they believe that it is the literal words of Allah, that it was not
Yes.
created,
Yeah.
it was not made by man, and it was only revealed through Muhammad and obviously through an angel. But they also have another authoritative set of writings, which are the hadiths, which are essentially the individual reports or accounts of Muhammad allegedly. And so they have these bunch of different hadiths that report the different things that went on through Muhammad's life and the things that he taught and the things that he said. And then obviously you get into Muhammad, which is they believe is the final prophet according to the Quran.
Yeah.
According to the Quran, he couldn't read or write, and so when the angel met him in the cave, he just that was the beginning of the revelation of the Quran. That over 23 years, it came into fruition and it was revealed to people.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, how they look at Jesus, they believe Jesus was a prophet. And they call him the Messiah, but nowhere in the Quran does it describe what they mean by the Messiah. Allah just called him a Messiah, but if you ask Muslims
Yeah.
why is he the Messiah specifically, nowhere in the Quran does it explain that. They say that he was a birth of the Virgin
Yeah.
Mary through Allah's command, and then he's even referred to as a word of Allah. And so a lot of how their perspective of Jesus is very obviously, there are some similarities to
Yeah.
Christianity,
And they
but
don't
they
like completely
fundamentally
discount him. They just
no.
they just discount his deity,
Mhm.
his death and resurrection, which is like massively important.
Yeah. So like
Can you see the
so
chat? Can you see the chat on here?
yeah, I could pull it up right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sean said we don't look down on people because of their religion. We just hope they find Jesus, right?
No, I think there's a big distinction that and even in the terminology of this live is this is a inspection and critique of Islam and not an inspection and critique of Muslims. I think a big thing that
Great. Yeah.
is a good clarifier is that for a lot of Muslims, a lot of it is cultural. For
Same
even
with
right now,
Christianity too, though. Like
same
hey,
with the same
same
with
with
Christianity.
Christianity. A lot
The
of it
same
is
with
cultural.
Christianity. even when you look at the statistics, right? When people say like Islam is growing, it's growing because they're having children, and your kids just take on whatever you believe.
All the
So a
children.
lot of it is cultural. It is just a cultural thing that they come into.
Yeah.
And so really it's a critique on the Quran and what Islam teaches ultimately, and not really a critique of people. But ultimately the point of this is, just as we were once deceived, they are deceived, and we are
Yes.
hoping that through showing how this doesn't line up when you start to inspect it, and then when you compare it to the Bible, the scriptures, Jesus, the historical evidence, the literary evidence, so on and so forth, that they can come to the understanding of the truth and of the one true living God, and that God is
100%.
triune, and that
And I
Jesus
wouldn't
is part
say
of that.
like, I wouldn't even say like we hope people come to know Jesus. We should do everything we can that
Yeah.
people would find
to show
Jesus.
to everyone.
Yeah.
But we
Yes.
should reject other religions. This is not
Yeah.
we'll just let them believe.
There's
No,
not many paths that get to heaven.
there's not. There's
No.
one. There's
No.
only one.
Yeah, there's only one, and we can't be fearful as Christians to talk about those things and explain those things. A lot of people are very fearful because nowadays you are what you believe. So people think if you critique what someone believes, then you are coming against them personally. And it's not a personal attack. It's, hey, like, let's line these things up and let's look at them with honesty and with the pursuit of truth. Like for me personally, I study the things I study because it is a pursuit of truth. It's not just a build a bunch and have a bunch of arguments so I can just argue with people all day. It is because, hey, I'm a seeker of truth. I want to be a student. Let's look at these things. Let's do the proper research and gain the proper knowledge. And when we look at obviously what we're doing today, when we look at the Quran and what Islam teaches, it just it's not logically consistent in any way.
Correct. All right, keep going. What is their belief in salvation?
Oh, okay. So essentially their concept of salvation is how what we would really look at it as. Really, it's a work based. A lot of it's not like how, and again, that's why they fundamentally reject this idea of Jesus dying on the cross, because they say, well, we are accountable for our own sin, and in this life we need to do, and that's why there's all these things that they got to go through to become Muslims. And as Muslims, this is why they have to do a certain amount of prayers throughout the day. This is why they have to try to do the things that Muhammad did and use his life as an example, because they are trying to outweigh the bad with the good. So when Judgment Day comes, through Allah, and really even this is even a thing, is it's work based, but still ultimately within their Quran, like it says that ultimately it's still based on Allah's mercy. Like you are still ultimately even sent to hell, but through Allah's mercy, he will just pull you out of it. And so a lot of them, like you will ask them, like, do you think you're saved, or you think you will go to heaven? And they don't have that reassurance, because it's like, well, I have to do this. I have to do the certain amount of works. I have to do the certain amount of prayers. I gotta outweigh the bad with the good, and then hopefully at the end, Allah is merciful on me, and then I can go to paradise.
Yes. Yeah, and they do the Shahada, which would be like their declaration.
Yeah, their prayer into, and then they go through the processes of being recognized and all the other things.
But there's not a guarantee.
Yeah, there's not a guarantee.
It's not like
I think Muhammad said himself, like he says himself, like, I don't know what's going to happen to you or I. Like Muhammad said this, I don't know what's going to happen to you or I. So there is this understanding, like, even you could meticulously do all the things, and still at the end of it all, you still have zero guarantee. It's only all based on whatever Muhammad decides where you should end up.
Right, which would be different than Christianity.
Allah, sorry.
Right. Way different than Christianity. We'd say, hey, Holy Spirit is a seal of salvation.
Right.
And then First John says, like, and you'll know that you're saved by these markers and these things. So
yes,
there you can have confidence in salvation with Christianity, which is definitely different.
Yes, very different, very different.
And very reassuring. Okay, so
Yes.
that's a basic overview of Islam, their belief in God and salvation. What about Muhammad, who really, like, this is their guy, right? It's built on the
Yeah.
back and the words of Muhammad. So what are we looking here? And this is where people get real mad. So
yeah, so Muhammad, that's their guy. Which is
just
funny
looking
is
at history
because
here.
and yeah, again, we're literally just looking
Looking at
at
history.
what the Quran says, what history says, not our opinion. And what's funny about even the concept of like Muhammad being the guy, but even in their own Quran, Jesus is clearly still very much favored over Muhammad. Like they believe before judgment, Jesus is going to return. And it's like, okay, he's not God, he's not the son of God, he's not eternal, but he's plays a very pivotal part in your judgment day. Why is he returning? But someone who like Muhammad, which it is their standard, which he's supposed to be their standard of
Yeah.
how you're supposed to
Morality.
conduct yourself as a
Yeah.
Muslim. And so when you look at Muhammad, like that is their guy. And so he claimed to be a prophet in AD 610, which is 580 years after the death of Jesus. So when Muhammad comes on scene and he has that encounter in the cave, this is 580 years after the death of Jesus. So like as we could already see there, the Bible's already been compiled. We already have the Gospels. Obviously, we already have the Hebrew canon and the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament. And now Muhammad comes on scene. He has this encounter in this cave with, they say, is the angel Gabriel. And it says he is violently pressed. Like not like he is violently pressed 3 different times, and he's told to recite or read. And remember, Muhammad, he was illiterate, like he could not read and he could not write.
And that's not picking on him. That's like
and
literal.
that's not picking him. Like that's literally he could not read and he could not write. But he's being pressed by at this time he doesn't know what it is that is pressing him violently, to the point that he's literally terrified. And then it says he runs home to Khadijah, and then Khadijah brings him to a man of one of their teachers, one of their scholars, and the scholar says, "Oh, this is similar to the account with Moses, right? This is just like when Moses with the burning bush." And this is the moment where Muhammad starts to believe, "Oh, I had an encounter with the angel Gabriel." And this starts the journey of the Quran slowly being revealed to him. But even when you start to inspect that portion right there, right? Even when you suspect that portion there, let's compare the two, right? Let's compare the encounter that Muhammad had in the cave with supposedly this angel. And funny enough, you read the verse out of Galatians chapter 1, where Paul literally says, if one of us or an angel comes to you with a different gospel, let them be accursed. So not only does Paul essentially prophesy of, hey, we will be able to tell.
Well, he was dealing with it.
He was currently dealing with it. And then obviously 2 very prominent religions come on the scene in Islam and eventually Mormonism, where 2 accounts of angels coming to them telling them, the church has essentially fallen away and you need to be the only one to bring it back. But we look at the 2 different accounts with Moses in the burning bush. Moses was terrified, but Moses wasn't terrified because he didn't know what he was encountering. He was terrified because he knew he was standing in the presence of God. Right? It wasn't like he was like, oh my gosh, there's this supernatural thing that's thrashing me right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. No, he knew I am in the presence of God. I am a sinful man. I'm scared. What am I going to do? Where Muhammad, he did not know what he was encountering. And so when you start to compare, even when you look at when they just in the encountering of angels within the scriptures, period, oftentimes they are revealed themselves as, I am a messenger from God. I am from God, so on and so forth. So when we really start to inspect these accounts, again, we're comparing the 2 different worldviews. And we're going to get into this a little bit after, but really, even when we start to look at how the oh my gosh, can we ban? Am I allowed to ban someone on here? I see Corinne Sanchez in the chat.
It'll just make it so we can't see what she says. Sadly.
Oh man, bro. I'm gonna hit up Mark. I'm gonna hit up Mark Zuckerberg and get her account.
Zuck, get her off.
Yeah, get this. Speaking of demons, one has entered. I'm just kidding. All right, continuing in this very serious topic.
What a bully.
But when we start to look at when we start to look at with the when the Quran being revealed, and we start to compare again, from the teaching of the Quran, the teaching of Islam, that the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, the Psalms, and the Gospels are all revelations of Allah, all the speech of Allah, and the speech of Allah cannot be corrupted. And eventually we get into how he even tells the people of the book, the Jews and Christians, to even refer to their scriptures.
Yeah.
And we start to compare the two. We start to see that things just they don't line up.
No,
and so it's very hard to, again, right? We're in a space where we are seeking truth and we are looking at the evidence that is being presented in front of us. And we just read, again, Galatians at this time has been out. Paul wrote Galatians. By the time Muhammad is on
for about 500 years.
Yeah, for 500 years, we have these scriptures that's been on the scene, been doing their thing. And we're seeing this thing come into fruition. And again, another contradictory thing is time and time again, what we see in the Bible, we see very public revelation. We see things that were done in front of many people, in front of many eyes, and many people can attest to it. And then we see this one thing where Muhammad ends up in this a cave, alone by himself, encounters some, and again, we can appeal to the fact of this wasn't a spiritual encounter. He has some type of spiritual encounter, and it happens to line up with something that Paul specifically warns us against. And so when we even look at his claim to prophethood as Christians and as the people of the book who should judge by the book, we are starting to see, that it's kind of a slippery slope when it comes to the truth in this sense.
100%. And then even when you pull back, Muhammad's own personal life, because remember, he's supposed to be the standard. The standard is terrifying here.
Yeah.
And this is where people get real mad. But look, we're just looking at the history of the man that is recorded and not hidden and out there. So, number one, he married Aisha, a 6-year-old girl.
Scumbag.
And consummated the marriage at 9.
Consummated it at 9 years old. And I've watched some people argue this.
I've been watching it all over right now.
It's crazy because some people their age of consent at that time was menstruation, and it's it's wild.
Or they'll say that they are biologically older in that time, which is also not
but still, it's crazy because their scriptures will say that she was still playing with dolls at the time. So it was still okay, either she was in sin for being an adult and playing with dolls, or he was in sin for consummating a marriage with a child. All of it is wrong. It's just eek. Okay, so there's number one. Okay, that's your guy. That's your guy. Also, this is crazy. He married a woman that was his adopted son's wife.
Yeah.
It was had this revelation of it, and ends up getting his own way to marry his adopted son's wife. Yeah. Which is crazy. There was a limit to 4 wives, but
he exceeded that limit.
He was allowed to have more.
Go figure.
I mean, even just 4 wives is already crazy. But then he's you know what? I'm gonna raise you more.
But I'm the special guy here. I can have more. Do you have anything written out about all their raids that they did? One of his very last No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, you even go into because a lot of people will try to appeal to Muhammad earlier on in the starting of Islam, But eventually, when they migrated and they started to pick up steam, I mean, he literally turned to a war general. I mean, he started a bunch of wars. He owned slaves, sold slaves. Was a very prominent figure and was very a part of slavery in that time. He had female captives and concubines. And again, what we and some people might be like, okay, what is the point of this? A part of what a Muslim is supposed to do is they are supposed to emulate the life of Muhammad, right? Again, this is not a critique against people. This is a critique against Islam. And part of what the Quran teaches and the Hadiths teach is that to be a good Muslim, you try to live up to the standard of Muhammad.
Yeah.
Muhammad is the perfect picture of what a Muslim is. And so let's say I'm a Muslim and I am trying to be a good Muslim. Okay, well, how do I be a good Muslim? My imam is going to tell me you must try to live up to the standard of Muhammad. Okay, well, let me go read about Muhammad. And when I start to read things like, well, Muhammad had a wife that was 6 years old. Well, Muhammad owned slaves. Well, Muhammad had multiple wives. Well, Muhammad committed a bunch of war atrocities against the unbelievers, the infidels, right? Against Jewish people. And so if
like entire villages.
Entire villages. And
as
so
one of
again,
his last acts.
If I am in if I genuinely believe this and I believe this to be truth, then I am going to try to emulate what I see and what I read. And so this is some of the dangers again that people are speaking against nowadays. And again, things can get muddy because there are some people that have different type of agendas when they come and talk about these type of things. But when we look at it for what it is, if you truly believe this as the truth, this is true. Allah is the one true God. Muhammad is his final prophet, his final revelation, and we must live up to his standard. Well, then you are going to try to live in society as such. And as we see, this is not it's a low state, and it is not a society that I would agree nobody realistically would want to live to. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't want my society to partake in child marriage. I don't want my society to partake in the killing of people that don't believe the same as me, or to take them as slaves, or to take over their country.
Take my son's kid or wife.
Or take my son's wife. Like, again, and so once people start to look at it in this manner, it shifts and changes a little bit. And then again, you compare it to Christianity, where for us, our ultimate standard is Christ, and
who was sinless,
who was sinless. And again, it's funny when people are like, "You're brainwashed by the Bible," and it's like, okay, I'm brainwashed by the Bible, and my Bible tells me I must try to emulate Christ, who was generous, who was kind, who was loving, who was patient, who took care of the disenfranchised.
Love your neighbor.
Love your neighbors as you love yourself. If they ask for your coat, give them your shirt too. Turn your
2 miles instead of 1. Like all of it.
Exactly. Like there's similarities, and again, you could ask any parent, hey, if you could give someone a standard on who you want your kids to turn out to be, either Muhammad or Jesus, who would it be? And very clearly Jesus. And so when we start to look at again this as a world view, and again, this is the stuff that it teaches. This is not like we're just we're against,
and not Islam, picking out some random stuff either. Like this is
no, like this is any Muslim would tell you, like, no, Muhammad is the perfect Muslim and we must emulate him.
Yeah, and they'll like have to argue their way out of this 6-year-old marriage, 9-year-old consummation, and the mental gymnastics around this is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they'll go into there's arguments on they'll go as deep as biology. They'll say well, the biological age at that time was much older, and which is not true. Like you can literally look into secular scholars, and when you look into the fact of did women age faster or more earlier back then, and it's not true. People obviously died at a way earlier age back then. There was less nutritional value within food.
Yeah, they said it's
Obviously
actually
things were
quite the
very
opposite.
scarce. Yeah, it's very quite the opposite. So women actually aged at a less maturity rate,
Right.
over time compared to nowadays, where obviously things are much more very different. And so when they try to make biological arguments, they try to make arguments out of, well, was she really like, again, it's some of the things that I was listening to something today, like some of the things that are said are like are kind of insane. And I just think you can't make it a case at all that you could ever argue why marrying or sleeping with a 9-year-old is ever acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, to what Shah said, like Jesus is the only sinless Muslim, according to them, right? They'll say Jesus is a Muslim, but because they'll say, what does Muslim mean? Muslim is someone who submits to the one true God. Jesus submitted to the one true God, and he prostrated when he prayed, and so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, when then you go into the again, ready, right? Allah, he has no sons, he begets no sons, but Jesus consistently referred to God as a father. And they'll be like, well, what? No, that, and again, when you just line everything up, nothing lines up, nothing compares, and that's where you get into the whole concept of like the Islamic dilemma and things like that.
Yep. No, we're inspecting, Sean. We're just literally inspecting what their belief is, and now we walked into their guy, their main prophet, Muhammad, in his life. So I wouldn't say it's divisive. It's just history.
Yeah, I think we can't look at when we're discussing, because we have to understand this is that in our world there is absolute truth, right? There is not subjective truth. If truth was just subjective, then yeah, anyone could believe whatever they want. Anyone could have any faith they want. Anyone could do what they want, because at the end of the day, truth would ultimately be subjective. But we understand that is not true. We understand that truth is subjective. There is a truth out there. So if there is a truth out there, that means somebody is right and somebody is wrong. And we don't want to hear that sometimes. We want everyone to be right, everyone to be a winner, but I'm sorry, everyone's not a winner. And so when we face the facts and understand, hey, there is a truth, and as honest people, we should do whatever it takes to pursue truth. And so you have to have the discussions clearly. And even when you even just compare Islam and Christianity, they cannot, in a very real and honest sense, they cannot compatibly both be true at the same time, or they could not logically both be true at the same time. It'd be a logical fallacy. You cannot have them both be true at the same time, because they contradict each other at the highest of high levels and at the lowest of low levels. And so again, if we are being people that is pursuing truth, then we are comparing the things with what we have in honesty, right? We're being charitable. And when we pull it together, we see it's not lining up.
Yeah. And Sean, to your point of we just have to spread love. Well, truth is love in a kind way, right? It's like if I know that you drinking bleach is going to kill you, it's not spreading love to be like, keep drinking that bleach, man. I'm happy it makes you feel good. That would actually be hate, because I know the truth in the outcome of you doing what you think is good. It would be loving to confront you with truth. Be like, I know you like this, but here's the outcome, because I know the truth of drinking bleach. It's the same thing. Like, it's only love to share truth. Now, you don't do it with a hammer. Right. You should do it with a scalpel. You should do it with a heart. You should do it with kindness. But also, like, this is like my Christian Facebook, and most Christians don't know these things. And that's the problem, is that most Christians don't know what other people believe. Sadly, most Christians don't know what they believe, let alone what other people believe. So they get confronted with something and they fall apart. But scripture, like Buddy already referenced, 1 Peter says that we should always be ready to give a defense for what we believe. So we're laying the groundwork tonight on what Islam would teach and believe, And tomorrow we'll look at their critiques of Christianity and how we can give a healthy biblical response to this.
Yeah.
It is love to share truth. It is hate to only spread, quote, love without ever having a foundation of truth.
Yeah, and to be very honest, I mean, we have a guy that is part of the pastoral staff at the Ithaca campus, that is from a country and from a nation that is primarily Muslim, that has Sharia law, and his family is facing all a type of attacks and persecution, all based off of what Islam teaches. And so we also, again, what we are doing here is we are giving a realistic view on what it is. Right, we're not trying to make a boogeyman. We're not trying to create straw men or caricatures or whatever. We are giving a realistic, healthy view on what this religion is, what it teaches, and how it will affect us today. I mean, literally, just by they had online discourse, honorable, respectful, wasn't nothing crazy, and his family literally got displaced out of their own home. His uncle and brother were thrown in jail simply for being Christian and speaking against Islam. And so again, these are the truths of what's going on nowadays, and we have to be okay with having these more difficult conversations and talking about truth and spreading truth in the manner of love, and not just doing so out of the fact of, and Pescody says all the time, heaven and hell are real, and everybody has a soul, everyone has a name, everyone has the eternity. And I'd be very wrong if I seen someone, and I believe the scriptures that I have and the life that I was called to and the mission that I was given is true. I would be a fake Christian if I seen someone that I believe was being deceived and I did not tell them the truth. I would be fake. That is fake, right? We'll get into it obviously tomorrow when we look at what the Bible teaches, and Pescody has said it plenty of times. My religion teaches me to spread my religion, right? To share my religion. And so if I see someone that I believe is deceived, and I sit there and be like, well, I'm just gonna let them believe whatever. I'm fake, and that's just what it is. I'm fake because that's fake. I'm supposed to be someone who's
clipping that.
That's crazy. Anyways, look, that's that deception. That's that deception. But I would be fake, and I don't want to be fake. So again, Jesus told us we have to spread the truth, preach the gospel, and that's to everybody, not just
Bro, my buddy Jordan out in Idaho, he actually just did an entire summer series on false religions. It's pretty cool. Like, he took every Sunday and just highlighted a different false religion.
That's very important.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, pretty wild. He said it went great. So
I believe so.
Love it. Awesome. Sean's on the same page as us. All right, buddy. Next piece. The Islamic dilemma. Here's the conundrum that they get into, guys, with what their scriptures teach.
Yeah, so I as you have probably already seen with us going through a little bit on what the Quran teaches, what Islam teaches, and then obviously what we believe as Christians, we already start to see a dilemma present itself. And the Islamic dilemma can be structured in this way, very simple, right? The Torah and the Gospels, right? We know the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. The Gospels, obviously Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they came from Allah. Right, that's what the Quran says, according to Quran 3:3 and 5:46. According to the Quran, the Torah and they call it the Injil, come from Allah. It is the speech of Allah. And then according to Quran 5:47, I know Chuck keeps saying, "What's the Injil?" We're about to get into that.
According all caps, chill, Chuck.
What's the Injil?
I can see him like
it's the shout. Like, what's the Injil? What's the Injil? What's the Injil?
His kids are like trying to sleep, and he's like screaming it down, shaking his computer.
And then according to chapter 5, verse 47, right? The Christians are told to judge by the Gospels, right? To judge by their book. So again, but let's take ourselves, right? Let's transport ourselves to back in Muhammad's time, right? The Torah, the Gospels that I have, they come from Allah, and I'm told as a Christian, I have to judge by the Gospels that I have, right? So then we start to see, then we get into Quran chapter 6 and chapter 18, and we talked about it earlier, right? That the Injil and the Torah are the speech of Allah. Right, it's not like how we look at it, that the scriptures were written through men through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. They believe it was uncreated, right? The Quran was not created. It is the speech of Allah, and the speech of Allah cannot be changed and it cannot be corrupted. And so we start to run into a dilemma where if I am told to judge according to my scriptures, well, when I look at my scriptures, they do not align with what the Quran teaches, specifically chapter 4, verse 157, where it literally says that Jesus did not die on the cross and that he appeared to die, that it was appeared to be so. But according to my Bible, according to all accounts of the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all 4 accounts of the gospels, it says that Jesus publicly died on the cross, was publicly put into the tomb, and was publicly resurrected and was seen by 500 people 3 days later.
Yeah.
And so we run into an issue, and this goes into the point of what Shah's saying, right? They say, well, what we talk about? Well, what's the Injil? And they'll look at it. Well, was the Bible preserved? Because their argument will be, well, the Bible wasn't preserved. Well, that when they had it at the time, it was changed. But we have manuscripts, right? There's over 5,800 Greek New Testament manuscripts,
and that's just Greek.
That's not just Hebrew, Greek New Testament.
Aramaic.
No, we have over 25,000. Yeah. We have over 25,000 ancient manuscripts. And just to give that, manuscripts just means handwritten document. And just to give you an account, I believe there's only 1,000 manuscripts of Homer. I believe it's 46 of Aristotle. I think it's like 9 of Plato. I think it's only like
what we know of Socrates is what another guy wrote about him. That's it.
Yeah, like it's very, very far and few between with people that we believe to be real historic figures. We have way less manuscripts. And when it comes to the Gospels and New Testament, even the Hebrew canon, we have thousands of manuscripts. So we can go and we can look back at the manuscripts that predated Muhammad's time, and we see it's still the ones that we have today. We can go back and look at the manuscript
where it was corrupted, right?
Yeah, to show where it was corrupted. And so the conundrum is this: is the Quran contradicts supposedly Allah's previous revelations, and it's either Allah is asking the Christians to judge from a corrupted book, or he sent Muhammad to go and to approve of the Quran, because he even told Muhammad, he said, go to the people of the book, the Jews and Christians, and they will prove to you and show to you that the Quran is true if you have doubts. So why would he tell Muhammad to go to a book that people had that is supposedly corrupted? And everything just starts to collapse in on itself. And then if you say, well, the Bible is true, we still have those things. Well, according to my Bible, Jesus did raise from the grave. Our God is triune. Jesus is God. And so Islam is still false. So whatever side of the aisle that you land on, ultimately it comes to the conclusion that Islam is false. Either if Christianity is not true, then Islam is not true. If Christianity is true, Islam is still not true. And again, this is just looking at what the Quran teaches. This is just looking at what the Quran says to do. It literally tells the people of the book, the Jews and Christians, to judge by their book. We have those books still today. We have those manuscripts today. And according to them, they do not align with what Islam teaches.
Yeah. And Shahid just put a great one of their verses in their Surah 10:94. If you're in doubt, go to the people of the book before.
That's what he told Muhammad.
So it's like, okay, why would he tell you to go to a corrupted book?
Yep.
What kind of wicked leader, wicked prophet tells you to go to a book that's corrupt and gonna lead you to more confusion? It just
that's what Allah told Muhammad, because he said, listen, if you're in doubt, because he was being told the Quran, right? Because remember, he couldn't read and he couldn't write, so he was being told, revealed the Quran, and then someone else had to write it down. And so Allah is speaking to Muhammad and is like, hey, if you are in doubt, if you don't believe what I'm revealing to you is true, go to the people of the book, go to the Jews and Christians, and they will confirm to you the Quran based on the Injil and the Torah that they have. And so again, right, we still have those manuscripts from that time and manuscripts that predated that time. And again, when we look, it does not line up. It doesn't line up. And so we're just inspecting what the Quran says and what Islam teaches. And based on what the Quran says and what Islam teaches, we have a dilemma. And like I said, either Christianity is false and both Islam and Christianity are false, or Christianity is true and Islam is still false. So at the end of whatever conclusion, ultimately, Islam is false.
I would go with that conclusion personally.
I would go with that conclusion as well.
All right, with 12 minutes. That's like the short of the Islamic dilemma.
Yeah, there's
a lot of other examples and verses that relies on this. There is a lot more.
Yeah, we could sit here. I mean, legit. There's much more.
If you guys want more resources on this, like Dr. David Wood, great resource on this. God Logic. These guys are all on YouTube. Sam Shamoun, great. Buddy, you got a couple of Inspiring Philosophy. I think it's another guy.
Inspiring Philosophy. There's a guy by the name of Sharik Khan. He was a former Muslim who converted to Christianity, and now he does a lot of apologetics within.
Who's the guy that passed away? Who was before him?
I know who you're talking about. He has
Nabil something.
Yeah,
I actually preached an event with him.
That's fire.
I preached an event with him, dude.
Yeah, he's another good one. There's a girl on Instagram named Bella Lou. She's great. She's on it. Oh, she killed. She did that debate with the 3v3 one. Yo, she went crazy. Those are some really good ones.
Okay,
a new one, Elijah Apologetics is really good. He's a new one. There's this Orthodox guy named Jerome. He's really good too. Yeah, there's a lot of really good apologists out there that are releasing a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, and you guys can find all this. Like, this is very surface level, guys. So there's way more depth to all this. I would just say, like, if you're listening to these debates, like, not all of these debates are as kosher as I wish they were.
Yeah.
Some of them get very intense. Some things are said that should not be said. It gets like lots of yelling. It's chaotic.
Yeah, you should just use it for the sake of one of my favorite apologists. He hasn't released stuff in a really long time. I wish he did. Preston Perry, who was like someone who was like a really big inspiration for me with apologetics a while ago. And he made it.
Hats. He's buying hats.
Yo, his hats are crazy. Anyways, he said something that really changed my perspective and heart when it came to apologetics, which is like the goal is not to win arguments, it's to win hearts. And this doesn't mean that I don't think there should be debates. I think God Logic had a really good. I honestly even changed my mind even on debates, and he was like, when we do debates, it's not to change the other person's mind. The point of the debate is to change the audience's mind. And he was like, when we do these debates, we have hundreds of thousands of people that tunes in. And it's that Muslim that's going to tune in and that's unsure. And they hear these arguments and that they finally change their heart and give it to Jesus. Yeah. And
Sean, we still have tomorrow, friend. We still got tomorrow, Sean. So
we have 2 parts. Again, we'll go through like all of the hard-hitting objections that Muslims have against Christianity, and how we can properly answer them according to the scriptures, according to history, so on and so forth. But I think it's very important to get a basis on one. We looked at and gave a critique on Islam with very scarcely using our own scriptures, mostly using what Islam teaches, and then you're able to conclude it as a Christian. How, if you run into these type of conversations, maybe you know someone that you're ministering to or trying to give the word to, and you'll be able to answer these things faithfully.
Sean said, "I work nights. When does it start?" You're not being annoying, bro. We start.
No, you're not.
Yeah, we start at 9. We go to 10. And again, we're just hitting a little 2-part series on this.
Mhm.
So trying to hit like the big overarching misbelief system. Okay, the next part is the historical problem of denying the crucifixion. Still kind of hits like Islamic dilemma issue a little bit, but
Yeah, I mean, when you just even look at the historical evidence of one of the most prominent historical facts of history is that Jesus existed, was a historical person, and that he died on the cross. I mean, you look at the writings of Josephus, you look at, I believe his name's Tacitus. You look at even, I mean, you even go through and you look at a lot of atheistic scholars. They will admit to you and say, yes, Jesus historically existed and he did die on the cross. The question, where the questions lie, are was he who people actually said he was, or who he said he was, and did he resurrect? Right. This is even why Paul says, if Jesus didn't actually resurrect from the grave, then we are in vain. Right. People should have pity on us because we're here for no reason. And so the historical linchpin is, did Jesus resurrect? But the fact of that goes through the line of whether you're a Christian, atheist, whatever, the historical fact of Jesus did die on the cross. He was put on the cross.
yes,
He was persecuted under Pontius Pilate, and he did die.
yeah.
They literally
And,
contradict that whole
and
thing by
all of
simply
that
just
isn't
saying
even like supported just by Christians. Like
no.
literally, Pliny the Younger,
Yep.
Tacitus, all these like
Mhm.
Roman
What a name.
historians also wrote of the situation.
Yeah.
One is even quoted talking about James, the brother of Jesus, who was
Yeah.
crucified. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much here. The Talmud, which was Jewish rabbinic writing,
Mhm.
refers to Jesus as an Egyptian magician. Like, all
Yeah.
these things are super, super, super important. So you get Jewish writing, Josephus, who was a Jewish historian, Jewish writing about Jesus, his death on the cross.
Mhm.
You get Roman writing about Jesus and his death on the cross. So, and then I would even like point people who don't believe in the resurrection to a guy named Bart Ehrman. Bart
Yeah.
Ehrman is not a follower of Christ
Mhm.
at all.
He was
And
like atheist of atheists.
yeah, and like Bart Ehrman even affirms Jesus the Christ
Mhm.
really lived, and a guy named Jesus the Christ in that timeline actually died on a cross
Yeah.
historically.
Yeah.
And he's an atheist.
Yeah.
So for people who grind their axe on Jesus didn't exist and didn't die on the cross, those people reject standardized and accepted history,
Mhm.
and they just don't want to believe in a
Yeah, they shoot
historical
themselves in the foot.
Jesus. Yeah, it's just like when someone says something like that, it's like, oh, you actually either
Just
don't care to
yeah.
study or you don't care to admit that this is true.
Yes.
And they're hard people to argue with.
Yes.
Well, you just don't.
Yeah, and the Bible says you don't argue with a fool.
You just
so
don't, because they're unwilling.
It's very true.
I read that in Proverbs. All right, buddy, keep going. You got 5 minutes.
All right. Where do you want to end this on? I mean, that's pretty much it for the most part.
It's good for tonight. I think that's pretty good for tonight. Guys,
Yeah,
we are back tomorrow night, 9
yeah,
o'clock.
that's yeah, Adam, we're gonna cover all that. Like, according to Muslims, we can find Muhammad in the Bible. I know the verse that he's quoting, but they would genuinely say that Muhammad is referenced in the scriptures. And we'll cover
Adam,
all
you're
that
a troll.
tomorrow.
That's funny.
He's funny.
Matthew 7. I'm gonna read Matthew 7:15 real quick. He's a troll. I don't want to. Here's Muhammad in the Bible, guys. Matthew 7:15. Chapter 7:15. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Matthew 7:15. We found Muhammad in the Bible, fam.
You did right there.
False.
Yeah. Also, guys, like this is. I love that. We do have a congregation of people, and some of them are on here that are talking and doing a lot of research on these things because they have family members who are in this
Mm-hmm.
and living this out. Or they explored multiple religions and then landed on like, okay, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody comes to the Father except through him. So, Adam's got a wild testimony of seeking other religions. Shahid, he's pretty passionate about it. Like, he's got family members that he's trying to share the gospel with. Corey said she spent 20 years in Islam and
That's
is
crazy.
now on the other side, like serving Jesus Christ. So it is very important. And here's the other thing too. Sean's right. It's a pressing issue, not only in our religious climate, but in our political climate.
Yeah.
Because,
well, there is a political agenda attached to it.
Yeah, like there's
whether people like that or not.
There's a religion
there
that I do not want having a say in our politics
Yeah.
whatsoever as a Christian in this nation. So it all does tie together. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. I hope this was good for you. It's 9:58. We're going to start locking this down. We're not going to jump into any more content. Tomorrow night, we will jump into more. I thought tonight was nice, overarching. Here's kind of where the belief is. Here's a big issue with the Islamic dilemma. If you want to know more about these types of things, again, Dr. David Wood, God Logic, Sam Shamoon, all these guys will give a great explanation on YouTube about more of this. But also, I would say, like, it's good to know about these things, but it's better to know what you believe about your own religion more. So, if you can explain to me, if you can explain to me the Islamic dilemma, but you can't explain to me that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins from the scriptures that we believe in, the Holy Bible, like your priorities are out of order. It's not that knowing the other is bad. It's like you need to have your foundation first. Like, it's better to know what you believe instead of why you don't believe something else. So have both in order, but don't just have what you don't believe in order. For whatever reason, people seem to prefer to have an axe to grind rather than a stone to stand on.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, we love you guys. Jumping off. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Set a reminder for this, and we'll make sure we see you there.
And your favorite bobblehead will be back tomorrow night.